name's Jenny Miller and I'm the Domestic Abuse Service Manager at Rochdale Connections Trust, and I'm here today with Tam. So welcome, Tam.
Hiya.
And can you tell me a little bit about you, as in have you got any kind of things you really like doing, or if you've got children?
Yeah, I've got 5 children.
Wow. So what age range?
My eldest, she's 12, and then I've got my other one, she's 11. Got 9, 6 and 12 months.
So you've got your hands full,
Yeah.
in a way. Yeah. So life's busy kind of thing. So what's your story about? What have you kind of, gone through and come out of?
Well, I started a relationship, and at first it was great. For the first few months, everything was fine. It was like the honeymoon period.
So a lot of girls I work with, they always talk about this honeymoon period. And they always say it's great.
Yeah.
So what kind of effort was this person putting into this relationship to make you think, oh, this is good?
Well, he told me lies. He said he owned his own house. He had other children, so he told me he was involved. He was like a great dad. He was good with my other children at first. And he did that, he made me feel a bit stronger because I'd come out of a bad relationship before.
Okay.
So I felt like it was like the first time I met somebody decent, really. But then after a few months, he just was like somebody different. He turned nasty.
So what was the start of turning? Because I know
He'd
people
drink.
listening to this will want to know, how does it go from that to that? And sometimes people who, they put on like this I don't know, this charade of, I'm this lovely person.
Yeah.
And then that mask, it kind of slips after a while. And what usually was the triggers for him to turn nasty?
It was drinking.
Right, okay.
Because I think he was an alcoholic. He didn't show any signs of that at first, but he would drink quite a lot.
Yeah.
And then he'd just turn nasty when he was drunk. And he'd pick at things as well.
So when he was first dating you,
Yeah.
he'd have a drink and you'd have a drink.
Yeah, it'd be enjoyable, like social drinking. And we'd go for a meal, and then we'd go home and he'd carry on drinking then. And then it'd just get out of control where he'd just start getting angry. And I think that's more to do. But I don't think it was, I can't blame it on the drink, but I think that brought it out of him.
When you said he turned kind of angry, what kind of things would he be angry about?
He'd pick at stuff, he'd make things up. Like, for example, he'd say the kids were noisy, even though they weren't, he'd try picking at things, and the house being a mess. And he'd try and, even though I were doing it, he'd try and, make me feel bad, all the time. Like, just everything I did were useless. I felt useless.
I was going to say, how did it actually make you feel when he were picking at you?
I felt useless, like, everything I did, I couldn't do anything right.
What were kind of going through your head in the sense of, did you want to stay in the relationship?
Well, I did, because I thought he would change. I thought he could be that person that he said he was at the beginning. I thought he could be that person. But,
did you think you could change him?
Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah.
I wanted to. At the time, I really loved him, so it was I focused all my energy on trying to get him right.
You was really invested in
Yeah.
this relationship. Okay. And what about the children and all this kind of thing? You was putting all your effort into this man to kind of get him back to how he portrayed himself at the beginning. Where did your children fit in all this?
Well, this is the thing. I didn't realise it at the time, but I obviously wasn't putting their needs first. And even after the violence, I just carried on seeing him because I felt trapped. I felt scared. So it did have an effect on the kids, but I don't think I realised that at that time.
So you've just mentioned then violence. When did that actually start?
It was about 6 months into the relationship.
So pre that, it'd just been quite verbally
Yeah.
nasty. And then all of a sudden, what? Was it a slap or a push or?
Well, I was laying in bed and I got a text message off my ex, which I have children with. It was about the children. And he put a kiss on the message. And he woke me up, pulled me out of bed by my hair and punched me in the face. That was the first time.
So did he read your message then?
Yeah, he'd seen it on my phone. He used to go through my phone. But at the time, I didn't think anything of it because it was just a message about the children, picking them up.
Can I ask you though, did you have the allowance of going through his phone?
I did used to, yeah. Once he started doing it to me, I did used to do it to him because I thought, well, if he's looking through my phone, he's obviously hiding something from me. So I did, in turn, do it to him.
Yeah. He attacked you and you know, it was violent. How was he after the violence?
Oh, he'd tell me he was sorry, he loved me, he'd never do it again. All the, you know, the usual sob story. And then when he was younger, his mum passed away when he was young. So he'd use that as well as an excuse. He'd make me feel sorry for him. And he'd say that he had PTSD and all that. He'd never been diagnosed, but he'd invent illnesses to make excuses for what he was doing.
Did you ever threaten to finish the relationship?
Quite often, and I did when I have a child with him, my son, and when I was pregnant with him, that's when I wanted to leave. And I did do well on my own, and then after I'd had my son, I just went a bit soft again, because obviously I'd had the baby and I wanted him to be involved with him.
Okay. So let me just take you back, because I want people who are listening to this to really understand how, because people just say, oh, if it was that bad, they'd get out of the relationship. But actually, there's a lot more going on in you, you know, in your feelings, in safety, fear, you know, financial, you know, that kind of thing. So you said that it attacked you and your children. You didn't actually realise that your children were being affected. Looking back now, what do you think you was doing and your children was kind of doing, you know, to keep this relationship normal or stable?
We'd fight and stuff, and they didn't actually see it, they'd hear it, but I think sometimes that's worse, isn't it? So I just used to, like, after that, they were frightened of him, obviously, but we'd get back together, and obviously they'd think the same as me. He'd change, you know, he'd be nice for a while. He'd take us out, you know, things would be all right for a while, and then it'd always go back to being violent.
Was there anybody around you and your children, I don't know, like parents or siblings or friends, who were kind of going, yeah, this isn't really good?
Yeah, they was. Everyone was telling me to leave, but in my head, they didn't hear what he was saying to me after the abuse. It was like I said, the sob story.
Yeah.
It made me feel like I wasn't worth anything, so I didn't feel like I deserved anybody else. Like, I just thought there was him for me. Yeah. He made me feel like I had to rely on him. Even with the money, he took control of that as well.
So quite hard then.
Yeah.
I mean, did you feel a little bit trapped?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like, I couldn't escape. Even if I tried to, he'd always, like, he'd come and smash my windows, and if I didn't open the door, he would get in.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's one of them, isn't it? You know, somebody smashing your windows or threatening to smash your windows, your children are in
Yeah,
bed.
he just opened the door.
So did your children sort of like say anything to you, or did they say anything at school?
No, it wasn't really that. It was when my eldest daughter, she wouldn't come home. She ended up staying with my mum. She never wanted to come home.
Right.
Because of what was going on. And then in the end, it was like my mum was telling me all the time, you know, just to leave. And I did it twice, left, but then obviously it's so hard to get out of, because they don't see the other side of it, where he's on the phone telling me how much he loves me, and, you know, like, he's hurt and all this, and I loved him at the time, so obviously I felt sorry for him.
Your next steps, you'd had your baby, but you were separated at that time. So you'd left him when you was kind of near the end of the pregnancy?
It was at the beginning, because he'd pushed me down the stairs and I actually had to get a restraining order. Right. So I didn't see him the whole time, from the being 8 weeks pregnant till after I'd had my son. And then he found out I had him, and he texted and stuff, wanted to see pictures at first. So obviously I sent pictures, and after a while he said, oh, can I come and see him, you know, just pop round. And then it just ended up going back to how it was.
During the pregnancy, I did not bother you with, like, texting?
No, well, odd times, but I ignored it, and it didn't really bother me. And I was doing really well. Like, I got my house in, you know, I decorated my house, I got everything ready for the new baby. And then it was only after, I think I felt not as strong after I'd had my son.
Okay.
I felt quite scared and lonely.
So, during that pregnancy bit, did your eldest daughter come back home?
Yeah, she did for a while. It was on and off. She was gradually getting back to coming home. Like, she'd stay at my mum's, but then she'd come to me. But when I got back in a relationship, she just stopped coming altogether. She didn't want to live with me.
So he wasn't there at the birth?
No.
And you had your son and he started texting, he wanted the photographs, and you kind of think, oh,
Yeah.
you know.
And obviously when you've had a baby, you're really emotional anyway. Your hormones are everywhere. So I think that didn't help the situation as well.
So you allowed him to come and meet the baby and play daddy,
Yeah.
which is good, you know, but then did he kind of move in straight away?
Yeah, it was like after a few weeks, he ended up just coming more and more. You know, it was like he'd just pop round and then go, and then he'd stay another couple of hours, and then eventually it just got to the point he was just there all the time.
And how soon after he was there all the time did it become like it was previously?
Well, I told him if he were drinking, he weren't coming to my house and seeing his son. So he lied a bit, you know, said that he wasn't. I seemed to believe him for a while.
Yeah.
And then after about 3 months, he come up and I could smell it on him. And I told him to go then. And that's, again, we split up again. And that's when he started all the smashing the windows,
Right.
damaging my house, which I got billed for as well.
What happened next?
He did that and I moved out of area to Rochdale, where my mum lives. And I seemed to be doing all right again. And then this woman rung me up about him and asked me, you know, said about him, the violence, and he'd hit her and everything. So I was talking to her and then it turned out, well, I was texting. And it turned out it wasn't her, it was him. It was him texting me. So I was talking, you know, to him and everything. And he was saying how sorry he was, you know, all this crap. So he asked to see my son again. So I didn't invite him to my home. I went out with my son to meet him.
You didn't want him to know where
Yeah.
you lived?
So anyway, we ended up going out and drinking. I ended up drinking. And because of the restraining order we had a fight in this pub when my son was there. So we ended up both getting arrested for it because I was drunk as well.
Yeah.
And then he got put into prison, and that's when it ended there.
Right.
And I've not seen him
Is he out of
since.
prison now?
He is, yeah.
This person kind of, I'm fascinated by that bit about him texting you, pretending to be somebody who's been harmed by him, because with perpetrators, they kind of don't really admit to things, or they'll admit to it with an excuse.
Yeah.
Okay. And what you're saying is this man definitely knew what he'd been doing,
Yeah.
and actually kind of played a victim.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's quite kind of telling on his, you know, where his head was at.
Yeah.
Quite manipulative.
Very.
And that must have felt confusing.
It was, I
suppose, when you
thought,
look back.
at first I thought, is it some kind of sick joke, you know,
Yeah.
that he was playing? But I think, in a way, it was just him trying to get, because I weren't talking to him, I'd ignore him. I think it was his way of trying to get back in, so I'd open that door again to him.
So, he got arrested, and he got arrested, and he got put into prison, and you then thought, right, what do I do now?
Well, I lost my children as well.
Okay.
They went to live with my mum on a special guardianship. So that was the worst bit about it. It wasn't anything about the relationship. I think that's what woke me up from it, actually.
So you had children's social care
Yeah.
involved, and what did they actually ask you to do?
They just told me, really, to stop seeing him, not have him in the house. And at first, I rung the police every time he hit me. But then after a while, when the social services got involved, I stopped doing that. Because I thought, if I did, they would definitely take the children off me. So I didn't report it after that.
Yeah.
I stopped
Yeah.
reporting. In fact, I think it made him more powerful because he knew that if I let him in, they would take my children.
Yeah.
But he wasn't bothered about that. He didn't care whether they went into care or not.
Your mum kind of got the children
Yeah.
and on an SGO, special guardianship order, and did that kind of taint yours and your mum's relationship?
It did at first, but she was always supportive, but she put the kids there, then she stepped down. It was like she was more for the kids than me. And then it was only when I was, at first, when I lost them, I started to drink and I went into a depression.
Yeah.
But then after that, I started to see them quite regularly, and then I stopped drinking, and my mum, we got our relationship back a bit there.
Do you, looking back now, do you know why your mum did what she did and why?
I do understand now, but it's like I said at first, I didn't even realise that I thought we were just, nobody knew, you know, I thought we could just sweep it under the carpet and it'd be fine, but it never ended like that.
No, unfortunately it doesn't,
No.
does it? So looking back, you know, might be an obvious question this, but if you could do anything different, what would it be?
Well, I'd leave him. The first time he was violent, I'd have walked out and never gone back.
But if you was to say to a woman in your position, leave him, he's not going to change, do you think she'd take any notice of you?
It depends, because if you're not right in your own head, it's what's going on, like you said, in your own head. If they're not strong in their head, then it's impossible. So I think I'd advise someone just not to rush anything and get help, get some proper help, professionals.
Did you get any other kind of support or help?
No, not really. Well, I didn't really cooperate with the social services at first, but I think if I did, and you know, if you had listened to people, I think I would have done it. But like you say, if you're not strong mentally, it affects your views, doesn't it?
It really does, yeah. I mean, I was just about to say, have you learned anything from the experience? And I think what you're saying, it's about your mental capacity, your mental well-being as well. And I suppose just having some support. Yeah,
definitely. I went into a refuge as well, and I found that really supportive. There was staff in there, which I think were more helpful than the police and the social, because these women had been through it themselves.
Yeah.
So they knew firsthand how it felt for me, rather than just saying, oh, leave him, you know, or we're going to take your children. It backs you into another corner then.
Yeah. So where's Tam's life now?
Well, I've got another son. I've got him with me. I'm never going to lose him. And I'm never going to go into another relationship like that ever again. But today I'm happy. But I'm still recovering from that. Like, I still have anxiety. And obviously building relationships with getting my children back and stuff like that. I'm still going through it, but I've come out at the better side now.
Yeah. So would you, kind of looking back, and you're saying like you're moving forward, but you still have anxiety, do you get, have you got kind of anything to help you with that? You know, have you been to the doctor?
Yeah, I take tablets for anti-anxiety tablets. Yeah, and as well, I think I've got myself mentally stable now, like in my own head. I feel like I'm worth more than that. I don't want to be with someone who puts me down and makes me feel horrible. I want somebody who empowers me and, you know, somebody supportive.
You go, girl.
Well, I mean, I probably will never find that, but...
You know what, we can't write a society of men off.
No,
not all men
same.
or, you know, are bad. So unfortunately, you came across one.
Yeah.
So how would your friends and family describe you now?
A different person, totally.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a better mum, a better person in myself, and I take care of myself now, try to.
Yeah.
Right, whereas before I wouldn't even brush my hair some days. I just felt so low.
Yeah.
But no, I am stronger now. But like I said, I'm still coming through it slowly. We've got things to do, but I've come through the worst.
Yeah, you seem pretty determined and pretty strong.
Yeah. Well, it was I learned my lesson. It was after the children got put in with my mum, and that nearly killed me.
Yeah.
So I'm determined I'm going to get them back, and I'm not ever going to let anything happen again.
So what is your relationship like with your kids?
It's good, but like I said, I see them whenever I want. I've stayed over because it's half term. But it's still the fact that I miss them. I want them with me. I want to be doing the schooling every day. I want to be busy. I feel like my mum's doing all that at the moment.
Where you're up to in your own kind of personal space. I've got your house back. How are you wanting to get it back?
I've got a flat, but I'm hoping to get a bigger house moving forward, and then getting the children back permanently, hopefully.
Good plan. If there was any words of advice, I know I've kind of touched on this, but you know, if you was to say to somebody, these are my words of advice, what would they be?
Just be strong and sort your own mental health out, and then after that, everything falls into place. When you think differently and act differently, you attract different people, don't you? You get nicer people, but when you're low, you're meeting all the low people.
Right, okay, so yeah.
Just if you get your mental health on track and get the help and the support, then you can get through it.
Brilliant. So, Is there anybody who's ever kind of give you inspiration?
I'd
Any
say
female?
my sister,
Right.
because she's strong. I want to be like her. She's the strong one. She's she's worked. She's got one son, but she's brilliant mum. She's got a husband. She's a brilliant wife. She works. She's just, I don't know how she does it.
Have you got a good relationship with her?
Yeah. Even through everything, she's always,
Supportive.
yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're on a really good forward path.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for sharing your
Thank
story.
you.
It's been really enlightening for me. And yeah, onwards and upwards.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you.
Thanks.